I'm Alex, and it's cool to be here. I feel like I discovered some cool spaceship lair, but that's upstairs. Okay. So, as my dad explained, I work with him, and I've learned a lot from him the past couple of years working with him. So I spend my days working on new products and games and toys and candy and puzzles and designing websites and all kinds of stuff like that on the technical side of the toy industry. But at nighttime is when I like to sit in front of the computer and do more of the fun creative stuff that I don't have as much time for as I'd like. But that's when it gets channeled into it. And I'd say that I'm kind of newly discovered a passion for visual art. So I'm a musician. I've played guitar for about 10 years, acoustic guitar for 7 years, and no other form of art at all. And then about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I graduated from college. Had no idea what I was going to do, but I was attracted to music, so I moved to Brooklyn and met a guy, and we ended up starting a DIY venue out of our apartment together. And that was really cool, but it didn't, it ended up being a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, and didn't really come to fruition over time. But one thing I did leave that experience with was a huge love for people that could make shit really well, because I met a lot of really amazing people living in Brooklyn, and because we were throwing events 4 nights a week, we're having all these amazing artists, or I don't know, all kinds of people coming through. And another thing about that place is we always had tons of plants and tons of candles going. And so I fell in love with just fluid art, fluid, I don't know, melting wax and paint and stuff like that. Which when I left that experience and I was, on my own, had a lot more time than I knew what to do with. I just decided, after never having made art and always kind of wanting to, actually a lot of what I think his name's David, right, was talking about in the beginning, about how, I felt a lot of those things, about how I wanted to make things, but I was intimidated to do it, and, didn't really know how to approach it or manage the frustrations of creating things that were valuable. That always kind of intimidated me out of doing it, but then after doing this, I was just kind of fuck it, and I started melting crayons and filming it and doing weird stuff, and then taking pictures and warping them and sampling them and creating things. And at first, I definitely felt, I don't know, I guess I felt like I was kind of cheating in making art, because I was not drawing things from imagination, but just taking a picture and then colorizing it in Photoshop, and then bouncing it to another thing, and then putting weird effects on it in After Effects, and all of a sudden I had this weird trippy visual thing. And it didn't feel so pure, but I just kept doing it. I challenged myself to post on Instagram every day for a month of a new creation, so I just made myself do it. And after that month, I feel like I overcame a lot of my I don't know, insecurities or whatever it is. And since then, I've been creating a lot more and feeling a lot more comfortable with it, even though I definitely feel total newbie still, but it helped me break that threshold. And I mean, I've been kind of still dealing with that question of creation versus sampling, and what is art really, and what is, I don't know, original or whatever. But I guess to give some examples of what it is, this was kind of what the apartment looked like. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared, so I kind of just took a bunch of computers from my pictures from my computer and threw them in iMovie. But this is kind of what my apartment looked like. Lots of plants and candles, and we would just melt them all the time, and it just it became this kind of installation fixture. People would yeah, there'd be music, but people would be staring at the candles, and what's that? I don't know what that is. But so over time, that kind of grew from like just like melting candles to then like filming candles being melted. So, so like I made this music video with like some of my music, but it's muted. But like it's just like I added crayons to it and made these like cool like mixtures and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just sorry. I'm just kind of bouncing around because I didn't really. But then, kind of just like I just fell in love with like fluid art in general, and just because it looks really trippy and cool. So I started taking like still images and then like distorting the pixels in After Effects. So like this whole thing ended up leading to like trippy things like this, which like I had no idea what I was doing in After Effects, but I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna make something. I have to post it on Instagram because I said I was going to. So I ended up just like learning how to do key signature or whatever it's called, like key figures and all this kinds of like trippy, weird shit.
There was a band called The Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
20 years too late.
Yeah. But I just kind of fell in love with the idea of like sampling things. So now like I was trying to find some of these pictures, but I've like now some of the weird art I've been making, it's a lot easier for me to make like weird abstract stuff because I don't know how to draw. And so like this was actually, I couldn't find the original picture, but it was a picture of fireworks. And then I did something to it. I don't remember what I did, not this one. I like had some like digital distorter and I just like drew around with it on my finger and made this weird trippy little thing, and then I added some more filters to it, and then somehow I came up with this, and then sorry, I guess it's out of order, but this was like I took a selfie of myself in this one, and then so I got a hot plate. So this came from the candle, actually, inspiration. I got a hot plate and a lot of crayons, and I took some pictures that I'd taken. Like this actually started, I couldn't find the original. This was a picture of my friend DJing at some like weird underground house party, and I took the picture and then I put it on my phone and I like cropped him out of the background, and I put it on a hot plate, and then I melted, I guess, red crayons and yellow crayons around him and black crayons on his face. And I just started like messing around with like sampling. Like here is a self-portrait. I just like took a weird trippy selfie. I think that was the original of the kid. Like this was just like me being a goon in my basement. And then I just like melted crayons on top of it with the hot plate and started doing this. And over time, it's kind of become like a little more refined. Like now I'm like drawing with crayons as they melt, and I can at least, even though I can't actually draw anything maybe from like pure imagination so well, I can at least, you know, come up with like a funny like angle and able to like bring it into something that feels more original. And I guess, I mean, I'm still dealing with like, you know, what is sampling, what is original. Like this was just a picture of, I think like this started as a picture of just like, I'm sorry, I don't even remember. This was a picture of 3 melted crayons, and then I just drew around it, and I was able to like add like a bulge effect, or like, you know, angle things, and somehow it came out looking like a weird face. So I guess I've just been on this kind of quest of like finding out what is, I don't know, how can I create original art, but with like a scope of like, I come from sampling, so like started with music and now it's coming to visual and kind of still figuring it out. So, all right, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have just a comment. You may already be familiar with him, but if you're not, there's an artist named Jordan Belson, who was did a lot of fluid motion graphics in the late 60s, including the aforementioned Grateful Dead acid tests.
Oh.
But, and was active well into the 90s, and you would love his videos. He does a lot of stuff with like oil clouds and things like that, and it's very cool.
Noted, for sure. Gonna look the guy up.
Jordan Belson.
Cool.
Also, I don't know, have you ever seen 2001? Space Odyssey? Okay, 'cause some of your video reminded me of that.
Oh.
But also, there's a guy named Ira Glass
Yeah.
who does a wonderful radio program for many years called This American Life. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
Yeah,
on
I've heard
NPR.
some, yeah.
And he did a great essay, a spoken essay, I don't know when, I just heard it about a year ago, but he could have done it 10 years ago, talking about how whenever somebody is compelled to pursue creative instincts, when they first start, they have this vision of what they want to do, and he refers to it sort of as their taste. And inevitably, their taste exceeds their ability. And it breeds a huge amount of frustration because you know you want to do something and you start to do it and you don't know really how to get from where you're starting to where you want to end up. And everybody starts that way, and the only way to get through it is to do more and more of it.
Yeah.
So I urge you not to become frustrated and just continue to do what you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely become more natural because I'm just kind of like, it's okay if it's weird. All right, thanks.